welcome to Interfaith Connections. I am your host, Jackie Fuller. In our first segment, we are featuring a special kind of segment that we want you to have some more knowledge of concerning things that's been happening in our world lately. And we have on the show today, Rizwan Jaqua. He is the co-chair of the All Dulles Area Muslim Society, and he also serves as the chair of the Board of Trustees. He has many works, so I want to make sure I have all that correct for our audience, as well as serving on the Interfaith Committee. So we would like to welcome you today on the program, and thank you so much for coming on board.
Jackie, thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity, and peace be with you.
Thank you. Now, can you share with us some background information about yourself and the various roles that you are involved in?
Okay, well, no, thank you, Jackie. My parents come from Pakistan. I was born and raised here in the United States of America. I'm married to Priscilla Martinez, and we have 6 kids. We're all involved in scouting and interfaith work. I'm a manager in the technology industry, come with a computer science background, so technical background, and I've mostly raised in Texas, so I'm a Longhorn. Hook 'em horns. And as far as Adams, the All Dulles Area Muslim Society, we are the largest mosque Muslim community in the DC metropolitan area and in Virginia, and actually in the top 3 largest Muslim communities in the United States of America. We have 10 full-time and part-time branches in Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C. And actually, 2 of our branches of our mosque are hosted at synagogues and 1 at a church. So we have a very interfaith community that's supporting our mosque.
Okay, and we also have a picture of the mosque we want to share with our audience. So have them take a look. And in addition to that, can you share with us some of your interfaith work? What are you involved in from the interfaith perspective?
Okay, no, thank you so much. Our community has been involved with interfaith work since actually the 80s and 90s from the foundings of our mosque. We actually support, sponsor, and host over 100 interfaith programs throughout the year. I'm actually a representative of Adams on the board of the Interfaith Conference of Metropolitan Washington. Okay. Also, we have our community leaders like Imam Muhammad Majid is the chair of Fairfax County Faith Communities in Action. And our interfaith director, Farhanaz Ellis, is the president of the Loudoun Interfaith Bridges. And so we work with our brothers and sisters of all faiths to host various events, as well as sponsor and participate in various programs. For example, we were all together at the 9/11 Unity Walk yesterday, which was an amazing display of people of all faiths, of backgrounds and traditions, walking together in harmony and in peace.
Okay. And from that involvement in the community in so many different pockets, how has that been received by those in Fairfax County or even in Northern Virginia?
Oh, I think, we're blessed to live in this area, wonderful neighbors and partners in the area that work together with us. Like, for example, we've done a Jewish Muslim Scout Pinewood Derby for the Cub Scouts. It was actually a combination of the Jewish Committee on Scouting and the Islamic Committee on Scouting. We hosted it one year at the Olam Tikva Synagogue in Fairfax, and this past year at the Adams Center, our main center in Sterling. But again, great partnerships. For example, Northern Virginia Hebrew Congregation is the synagogue where we have our Friday prayers and our Ramadan prayers. Prior to that, we used to host our Friday prayers in the United Christian Parish in Reston. So we have seen the wonderful partnerships between people of all faiths in so many different areas. One example, of course, we're part of the board of Reston Interfaith, which is now called Cornerstones, right. Operates a shelter and pantry. So I think the one thing in Fairfax County and Loudoun County and the whole Northern Virginia area, we've got great interfaith action. Where we're working together to help those in need and in great sustained partnerships.
Okay. And for you personally, how has that involvement in all that you do with Adams in the community, how has that enriched you with your spiritual life?
I think it's something that, we talk about interfaith work actually increases our faith. It does not diminish our faith or water down our faith. It actually increases our faith. That, for us as Muslims, God tells us in the Quran that He's created us as nations and tribes so that we may get to know one another. And so I feel that my family and I and our community are living our faith by working with people of other faiths, by respecting each other, by working with each other, by learning about each other, and increasing harmony and peace.
And what are some of your success stories with the work you've done?
So I think the great success stories that I feel is that when we are like our youth, when they take on interfaith work, without being told to or asked by their own. For example, you came to our Interfaith Iftar, which is in Ramadan. We host a interfaith breaking of the fast. And Ramadan is our month of fasting. And you probably saw one of our Eagle Scout candidates at the time. He was actually raising money and donations of backpacks and school supplies to help benefit children of military families. That was something that he came up on his own. Prior to that, we had Eagle Scout candidates that they raised food. They collected food for a Catholic nursing home or for Resident Interfaith on their own. They came up with these. So it's something where, we can see they have great families, great parents, and they've really understood the message that God has told us in the Holy Quran to get to know one another, to respect other faiths. And so that is something that, just is a wonderful feeling to see our youth take on those leadership roles and getting involved in interfaith work.
And what has the feedback been like from the young people and those of other traditions that come to iftars? What do they tell you? What has their experience been like as far as being educated about Islam and what is important in regards to connecting with different communities? What has that feedback been like for you?
Oh, I think it's been great feedback. This July 13th was our 7th annual Interfaith Iftar. We were highlighting coalitions of interfaith organizations. Actually, last year, in our 6th annual one, we talked about fasting and all the faith traditions. So we had Christian and Muslim and Jewish, and we also had Baha'i and other faith traditions talking about their fasting in each of their faiths. So when people come to our iftar, they learn about that how much we have in common. And that's something that has been very important, that that even God tells us in the Holy Quran that fasting has been prescribed to you just like it has been prescribed to those that came before you. And so we have so much in common, and I think that's the overarching theme and the feedback we get from the people that have come to the mosque for the first time. As you know, we have government officials, law enforcement, people of other faiths join us, and that's something that they all feel that, commonality, that we're so much alike and that we have so much to learn about each other.
And does your organization participate in what is called faith-based advocacy? So are you involved with, getting the word out about maybe different things that's going on with either elections or something that may be passed at this local state level, just to build awareness in your community or the greater community? Is the organization involved in faith-based advocacy work?
That's a great question. And actually, in our community, being the largest mosque in the area and with 10 branches, we have almost 7,000 families now, representing about 25,000 people. And so we actually have a voter registration drive. We actually are we have members of our community involved in environmental protection advocacy. We're members of the Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy that has been doing advocacy as well in the Virginia State Legislature. We invite many government officials. They come to our mosque and we talk to them about current events and how we can help. We also work with law enforcement to help protect our nation as well as to protect our civil rights. So we work with the FBI, with a lot of the local police departments to make sure that we're working together to safeguard our country, to safeguard our communities, and to have a more peaceful and safe area.
Okay. And in your opinion, why is it so important to do interfaith work from an Islamic perspective?
I think, to do interfaith work, as I mentioned, it's something that is a part of our faith, from the Holy Quran, that we're, encouraged to get to know one another and respect people of all faiths. And so it's important from an Islamic perspective. And I think that obviously, as you started out, that there's so many challenges today and many misunderstandings. Right. And I want to make sure that people understand that Muslims, we condemn terrorism, we condemn violent extremism. We're working to, as I said, partner with our law enforcement for national security. community. And it's so important that we understand each other, that mutual respect and understanding is critical. And I think that's, where we, alleviate misconceptions.
Okay. Now with the IFC, can you share with us your role in that, and how are you involved, and where would you like to see the organization go within the next 5 years?
Oh, no, thank you. I've actually been on the board for several years. I was a past chair of the Interfaith Conference of Metropolitan Washington, and then recently served for 4 years as treasurer. Now I'm just a regular board member, and the Interfaith Conference has a 35-year legacy and history here with 11 faith traditions as a part of it. We have actually a book we published that is written by leaders of the 11 faith traditions, basically strengthening teaching about religion. We do various events like an interfaith concert and interfaith dialogue and bridge builders event, to really strengthen the interfaith work. But the books are really important, the teaching about religion, so people can really understand and learn about each of the 11 faith traditions. So we really want to take, IFC, to continue with bringing faith communities together, kind of like a United Nations of faith communities, and also help educate the grassroots and have the leadership continue to work together and help support more community service, helping those in need. That's, I think, something that's very important to all groups. And so to have more interfaith action where we are, working for advocacy and helping those in need. We actually host the Greater Washington Interfaith Power and Light. They're a subsidiary of the Interfaith Conference of Metropolitan Washington. So we've really tried to continue to help in all areas where we can, go from interfaith dialogue to interfaith action and interfaith community service.
Now, you're involved in so many different activities. How do you manage to juggle it all between like professional and family life? How do you do that as a leader?
So I mean, definitely it's something where multitasking, load balancing is very important. Coming from the technology industry, but also my wife and I and our 6 kids, we're all active, and that's something that our imam, he always says, the family that prays together stays together. And I believe that the family that volunteers together, and this is what I try to say, steers together. We try to, we encourage that families volunteer together. And so it's something that, when the family's all together involved, we're able to, spend our time in, in interfaith work and community service and in Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. And so it's a blessing, and we pray to God that God accepts the efforts and we can do more with our time.
Okay. Now, have there been any challenges with any of the organizations you're affiliated with in doing the outreach work or the education work in the community?
And so, over the many years, there have been, some challenges where, we've had vandalism against our mosque, after the horrific attacks of 9/11, which as all Americans and as Muslims, we condemn the horrific attacks of 9/11. We had vandalism for several years after that. And actually in 2004, the interfaith community said enough is enough. And they actually did an overnight vigil and sat in our parking lot to protect our mosque from any further vandalism. After that, we never had any other vandalism. And we thank God and we thank our interfaith partners. And that's something that the overwhelming majority in our area are so supportive and counteract the small fringe of hate crimes or hate messages that come out of a fringe group here and there.
Okay, and I want to share with the audience pictures of the Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts of America. So I want to feature that so they can have an idea of what is going on at your mosque. And then there's also the Girl Scouts. And then we also have a picture of an interfaith event, which is, the setup is very nice. It's very exciting to see that. And then we also have another photo of a presentation with law enforcement. And I want to get back to that. How has that been with the police in your community in regards to like the outreach work and building relationships? What has that been like, particularly with the police?
Yeah, it's been a great partnership, as far as working with law enforcement. Every year, actually we started in 98 or 99, we did a law enforcement appreciation at the Adams Center. And we've continued that tradition. We call it now the Peace Gathering and public safety appreciation event where we honor law enforcement and public safety officials. It's our 13th annual event we just had on September 13th. We come together to remember the victims of 9/11. We come together to honor law enforcement for what they do day in and day out, and our fire departments as well. And the relationship is amazing at the local level, regional level, and the national level. It's a partnership for, again, safety in the community, safety in the region, in the counties, and safety in the country. It's something where we actually work together for counterterrorism, for counter-violent extremism, for counter-radicalization as well, to make sure that we're protecting our country. And it's been mutual respect that is developed out of working with law enforcement. And we work together on other events as well, to make sure that our area is safe.
Okay. And how does the work with the young people, particularly young adults, how has that been? I know it seems like in a lot of communities that once kids go to college, they disconnect with their religious communities that they've grown up with and it's been part of the culture. In some cases, they have drifted from that. Has that been something you noticed lately in your work or at your mosque?
So I think, for all houses of worship, that's something that, we want to stay connected with young adults and, with our youth. And, we have, as you saw, a vibrant scouting program, over 300 scouts. We've got thousands of children that come to our mosque for educational programs and sports. We have a basketball facility indoors, and we have different sports activities. And so we've been focused on family, focused on youth. Our board, we have 13 members of our board. We're elected to the board. We have actually more than half of our board, or about half of our board, is young adults. Actually, I was elected to the board when I was 29. And so we have young adults involved in our community at every level. Obviously, we want to continue to reach out to young adults to get them involved in our community, to volunteer, to help out. And a lot of our young adult families, join our scouting programs and volunteer within that. So it's something that we continue to work with our young groups and young youth, and we look forward to more partnerships with the young adult community.
Okay. And for our viewers, if they want more information, how can they get in touch with you, or how can they learn more about Adams?
So obviously online, the adamscenter.org is our website. So ADAMScenter.org. We have a Facebook as well page that you can check our website and get access to that as well. And so that's the best way to get in touch with us. Again, we have 10 branches, full-time and part-time. Our main center is in Sterling, and our address and contact information is on our website. And we look forward to seeing people together. And we have actually upcoming events, like there's the Weekend of Twinning coming up in November, which is a nationwide and actually worldwide program of Muslim and Jewish congregations in the U.S. and around the world getting together, and we're going to have different events, published on our website. Beyond that, we have a free clinic, a community clinic to help people of all faiths that are uninsured and underinsured. So if you go to adamcenter.org, you can find out more information about all of that.
Okay, well, thank you, Rizwan, for all that you provided today about the Adams Center and the work you're involved in with the community.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Appreciate it very much. Peace be with you.
Thank you, and you're welcome. And we will be right back with Interfaith Connections.
Each year, nearly 150,000 women will learn they will undergo a mastectomy due to breast cancer. But 7 out of 10 women are never told about their breast reconstruction options. Every woman deserves the chance to know those options.
Dinner makes a difference. Learn more at casafamilyday.org.
Welcome back to Interfaith Connections. I am your host, Jackie Fuller. In our second segment, we are going to cover the most asked topic by yours truly in regards to anything interfaith related, and that is interfaith dating, relationships, and marriage. And I have with me today Susan Katz Miller, who is the author of Being Both, Embracing Two Religions in One Interfaith Family. Hi, and thank you for coming on the show, Susan. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Jackie.
Sure. Now, can you give our audience some background information about yourself?
So I'm part of a 3-generation happy interfaith family. My Jewish father married my Protestant mother in 1960. So they've been married more than 50 years now. And I think that that has given me a really positive attitude towards this topic, whereas a lot of people feel very negative about it. And my husband and I have been married for more than 25 years now, and we have raised 2 children with both Judaism and Christianity. And that is a controversial and relatively new pathway, but it's one that more and more families are taking.
Okay. And what inspired you to write this book?
I was looking through the literature and I didn't see a lot of those positive stories that reflected the experience that I had growing up in a happy interfaith family. And I didn't see much description of this idea of raising children with both of their ancestries, both of their cultures, both of their traditions, both of those belief systems. And so I did a lot of research. I'm a journalist by background. I'm a former Newsweek reporter. So I spent 10 years writing the book. And I surveyed over 250 parents and over 50 grown children who had been raised with both family traditions. And then I interviewed many, many of those people.
And I want to share with the audience the cover and would like to know what inspired you to pick this particular design.
I love the cover that the press designed for me. And what I did was I gave them a list of metaphors that I used in the book. And I don't know if you can see, but that's actually a Venn diagram. It's 2 circles overlapping. So it shows what you could interpret as one religious space and the other religious space, and then the overlap period. And so when we raise these children, what we do is we give them really the opportunity and the permission to explore both of the 2 distinct religions represented by their 2 parents, but also that intersection, which is the common ground, the overlap.
Mm-hmm. Now, what has been the key mission or vision? What would you like people to take in when they're reading this and take out of it? What would you like for them to experience, learn, and share with others?
Well, first of all, that idea that you can both keep your religions and you can both pass on your religions. And what the research I did on the children showed was that they're not confused, they're not screwed up, they're not angry, they're not all putting religion aside because they were raised with 2 religions. In fact, they're very articulate about who they are, they're comfortable in their interfaith skins, and they appreciate the interfaith education that their parents have provided for them. And when you think about it, I really feel that all children should have an interfaith education. In the world we live in our very diverse country, it's important for all of us to understand a little bit about each other. But especially for the children who come from those families, it's really important for them to have that education so that they understand what their grandparents, what their cousins, what their uncles and aunts are doing in their religious lives and what their beliefs are and what those traditions are. Even if the child ultimately decides to choose a different religion, at least they'll have that familiarity and that comfort and that affection for that religion that's represented in their family.
Now, do you have any success stories you can share with those you interacted with in your work in regards to either interfaith dating, marriage, I guess in particular, because I'm curious to know more about like when it starts, because that's where I think a lot of people are.
Right. A lot of people struggle when they're first dating, and especially when they first sort of come out to their families as an interfaith couple, because often the 2 people in the couple can get along and can respect each other, but they feel a lot of pressure, either from extended family, parents, in-laws, or from clergy and religious institutions who are trying to dissuade them from the relationship, and that's where it gets really complicated. And so I think it is very, very helpful to have a support system And that's one reason that I think this grassroots movement has started up, where interfaith families are coming together and forming communities to support each other. And the group we have here in Washington, D.C., which is called the Interfaith Families Project of Greater Washington, is the group that my husband and I raised our children in. It has over